Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. The greeting of peace. The greeting of all the prophets. Again, starting with peace here. I'm basically here to talk about a certain verse in the Bible and how it ties into Islam. It's like myself, I'm a revert to Islam. I came to this journey actually through the Bible. And I see a lot of reverts today who talk about this, kind of go through the same thing, where they find verses in the Bible that lead them to think that it's not finished and needs something to complete it, or actually a last revelation or last prophet to complete the teachings of Jesus that are recorded in the Bible. So I'm going to go through some verses here real quick, God willing, inshallah. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard of these verses, but my job here today is again to break down using Christian sources and the Qur'an to demonstrate how this connection. Because as a Muslim or someone who submits his will to God, we believe that the Torah given to Moses and the gospel given to Jesus and the Qur'an, or the recitation given to Muhammad, we're all from the same God, the creator of all that's out there, the creator of the universe and everything in it. So again, if these books are from the same source, they're going to have some kind of connection between them to make you think that they were indeed supposed to be there and supposed to be given to humans. So God willing, I'm going to go through this list here and try to get you to understand the connection like many others have. We talk about pillar, or one of the things that, we talk about the 5 pillars in Islam, the certain fundamental beliefs. And if you really analyze them, they're basically the same pillars or understandings that have been there since the time of Adam and up until the time of Muhammad. May God's peace and blessing be upon all the prophets. And the first pillar, or the first understanding, the first fundamental, is there's only one God. La ilaha illallah. The first verse, the first commandment, given to Moses, and it was taught by all the prophets. There's only one God, and this is the only one worthy of worship. So indeed, if we're trying to worship this God, we need to know and indeed how we're supposed to worship this God. So we look at the first pillar of Islam, or again, the ones who submit their will to God, or the submitting to God with peace involved. Look at the first pillar, that there's only one God, and that Muhammad is his last messenger. Okay, this is important. So we're going to look at the Bible and get an understanding and see if there's something indicating that there is indeed some person or prophet supposed to be after the Messiah. So basically, I'm going to look through these verses with you and analyze them. In the New Testament, the book of John tells us that the Jewish priests, these priests came to question John, or Yahya in Arabic, unto who he was. And this is recorded in the Gospel of John 1, verse 19 through 22. So we look in this particular section, and it says that these Jewish priests were actually expecting 3 people. And if you were to talk to a rabbi or someone who's familiar with the scripture, depending where you are, most likely they'll agree to this concept. They're indeed waiting for 3 individuals. 3 individuals in particular prophesied in their books. Now, the Jewish priests questioned John if he was A, the Elijah, B, the Messiah, or C, the prophet. Now, again, we're talking about 3 different individuals: an Elijah, a Messiah, and the prophet. Now, according to the New American Bible commentary, it's a New American Bible for Catholics. When you look in the commentary of this specific text, it will say in the commentary on John 1, verse 19 through 22, it states, quote, the prophet, indicating the one referred to after the Messiah. It says, quote, the prophet, probably the prophet like Moses. And it refers to where this is talking about in Deuteronomy 18, 15, verse 20. Now, so we're given these 3 individuals that the Jewish priests were looking for. Again, an Elijah, a Messiah, and the prophet. And when we learn from the commentary of the New American Bible that this prophet is the prophet the Jews are waiting for, someone who is like Moses. And the key thing about this that we learn is that the Messiah is referenced and the prophet is referenced, indicating these are 2 different individuals. And there's other verses in the Bible that people can use to try to argue that the Messiah and the prophet are the same. But again, we're talking about Jewish priests who were sent to John. And these Jewish priests were the ones that were literate, understood the scriptures, understood Hebrew. And from what they understood is that the Messiah and the prophet were 2 different individuals. But let's go back to the first person they're talking about, which is the Elijah. Now, it is recorded in the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 13 to 14, that Jesus states that John the Baptist is indeed the Elijah. Jesus is also quoted in Matthew 17, verse 12, that the Elijah has already come, and that the disciples understood this to be John the Baptist. So out of good faith, we're going to take it that even though John denies being these three people, we're going to take it in faith that Jesus indeed was correct when he's mentioned in two different sections of Matthew that John the Baptist was indeed the Elijah. So since Jesus confirmed that John the Baptist is the Elijah, and that Muslims are submitters of God, and Christians, those who follow Christ, agree that Jesus was indeed the Messiah sent to the lost sheep of Israel to bring him back to the straight path, then who is this prophet like Moses the Jews are still expecting, or were expecting at that time? Now, if the Elijah and the Messiah has already come, then there is indeed a third messenger or a prophet that has still to come to complete the chain of prophethood. Because in the Bible, it doesn't reference anybody else after this prophet. It meant, again, the Elijah, the Messiah, and the prophet, and there's no one supposed to come after this prophet. But there is someone supposed to come after the Messiah. So, again, the thing we have to look at here is that according to the New American Bible for Catholics, this prophet is the prophet the Jews are waiting for, a prophet like Moses that's referenced in Deuteronomy 18, verse 15 through 20. Now, some characteristics from these through Deuteronomy or from the Torah that explains what this prophet would be or what his characteristics would be or in these certain aspects. For one, he would be a descendant of the brothers of the Israelites, or descendants of Ishmael. Again, it says, a prophet like me from amongst your own brothers. Okay. Next point is it must be listened to. So when this prophet is speaking or his words are being told, it must be listened to. Again, a prophet like Moses. Again, it says in the Deuteronomy, I will raise up for them a prophet like you from amongst their brothers. So it's, again, someone like Moses. Another attribute to this prophet, he'll have words put in his mouth, and God will tell him everything he commands. And again, from Deuteronomy it says, I will put my words in his mouth, and I will tell them everything I command of him. And the last point, God will call to account those who do not listen to this man. And if anyone does not, and going back to the verse, it says, if anyone does not listen to my words that this prophet speaks in my name, I will call him to account. So these are this is a pretty serious matter in a sense that God is demanding that this man be listened to, and that someone who does not listen to this man will be held to account. So where do we have, where can we look at as far as who fits these criteria that's referenced in Deuteronomy? Well, we first analyze these things. It has to be a prophet who follows the God of Moses and of Jesus. It can't be any other person. You might hear Mormons talk about this certain verse of John's with Joseph Smith, but again, Joseph Smith claims that God is actually from multiple gods and gets into this concept of multiple gods, and that totally goes against anything that the Bible or the Torah or the Qur'an is saying. We have the concepts of the Elijah, Muhammad, and the Nation of Islam, which I like to say is not the true Islam, is a variation that came hundreds of years later. And again, they claim that this person was God or a man was God, which is totally different from the God of Moses. And there's other beliefs out there, but they don't seem to fit as far as the pure monotheistic belief in the one God, the God of Moses, the God of Jesus.